All right, Adam, back for another Monday, and the Buffs coming off another loss, 4 in a row. And we talked about it obviously after the game the other day against Arizona. But any thoughts? Any different thoughts from Friday night?
Well, Khalil Tate did play out of his mind. If Colorado doesn't have the collapse against Oregon State, I know we said we were going to stop talking about that game, but it's clear at this point with the way the season is going, we're going to have to keep going back to that second half.
Yeah.
If they pull that game out, I think people kind of look at it and go, Tate played out of his mind. You have the injuries here.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a game you could have won, but it's not the end of the world. It's just compounded because of what happened against Oregon State. And, that's unfortunate for this football team, but it's a reality they're dealt with at this point.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I did a podcast with somebody from Washington State the other day and said the same thing, that yes, it looks ugly, a 4-game slide, but really those first two, you kind of expect them to lose. Washington and USC, they could have won them, but you kind of expect that. Arizona was a toss-up game, really. And like you said, Tate plays out of his mind. It really comes down to that Oregon State game, that if you get that one, the whole outlook of the season is totally different.
Yeah, and now what do? You just have to keep saying the right things and keep trying. Washington State comes in here and surprisingly is only going to be a 4.5-point favorite. At least that's what it's going to open up as. You look at both these teams where they're at right now. I was expecting a 7 to 10-point spread. I know Colorado's at home, but that was a little bit surprising. Those odds makers sometimes have those really weird odds that make you kind of scratch your head, but then sometimes they turn out to be right. Actually, more often than not, they turn out to be right.
Yeah.
Laviska Shenault puts on his Instagram, 2 Live is back or something along those lines, but still no definitive word. If he's out there, then certainly Colorado's got a decent chance in this game.
Yeah, and do you expect a definitive word from Mike McIntyre at any point this week?
He'd be stupid to do that, to be 100% honest with you. This is such a dynamic guy that plays all over the field that you want to at least have Washington State guessing this week and try to keep that under wraps if you can.
Well, I think you more than guessing, I think you want them having doubt. When it sounds like when Mike says, we're hoping to get him back at some point this year, that has doubt. That lets, maybe we can get back for Cal. That makes it sound like this week's not really a possibility, but Laviska's Instagram shows maybe there's something different there. So
it's reporting in 2018, right? Now you got to follow these players' Instagram accounts.
Right. Read into what they're saying there. I mean, what does it mean he's back? Does it mean he's gets to participate in practice for the first time? I don't know. But on top of that, you got Katie Nixon, who who knows what his status is, and Jay McIntyre slammed to the ground the other day, concussion protocol again. Mike says both those guys are day-to-day again. I don't expect him to say much different, but the health of those 3 guys is going to matter a lot.
Evan Worthington as well. He's still in concussion protocol. I actually thought Darian Rexstraw played pretty well. McIntyre did mention the fact that he dropped an interception. It was right in the numbers. That would have been a huge play. But he graded out really well by Pro Football Focus, the guy starting his first game. That was one of the few bright spots in that football game. But, clearly you need to get Evan Worthington back this week against that Washington State offense. And somehow, whether it's Mekhi Blackman, Trey Udofia, or Dante Wigley, or even Delrick Abrams hasn't been as consistent since he came back. Maybe he's still hurt. Those guys have to somehow pull it together on Saturday.
Yeah, they really do. And you mentioned Rakestraw. Actually, I had him one of my 5 best buffs of the week. I thought he played fairly well. Made some really good stops against the run. Did have an interception and could have had 2. And the one he dropped was actually kind of a tough play. It was tipped and kind of I think it kind of came on him quickly the way it came through the receiver. But anyway,
it's good for him. This guy that came in here as a receiver recruit moves over to cornerback. It doesn't move over to safety until spring ball.
Yeah.
And, he's thin for that position. He's going to have to put on some muscle. But that's impressive, that he stuck with it and finally found his home here.
Well, I think that if Evan Worthington comes back, then I think you feel good about having those 2 guys back there along with Nick Fisher. But like you said, the cornerbacks have got to play better. Whether it's Trey or Dante or Mekhi, whoever it is, they've got to play better.
I mean, again, some of those throws by Khalil Tate were right in there with good coverage. I don't know what happened with Luton the week before in the second half, but even some of those were next-level throws kind of seemingly out of nowhere. So it hasn't been every throw is missed coverage, but there's been enough mistakes back there that's been a weakness for them defensively.
I actually talked to DJ Elliott, the defensive coordinator, today about that, and he said, if it was a lot of missed coverages and we're just getting blown by people, then I'd be really concerned. Obviously they're concerned, but he said the thing is, he goes, we've got body on a body. He goes, guys are there. It's just they've got to play the ball better, and that's what it comes down to. And in a lot of those, you look at it, and that's really the case. I mean, Khalil Tate just kind of dropped those right in the bucket a few times, but play the ball a little bit better, then maybe they don't. It doesn't look as bad.
At this point, with Blackman having a high ceiling and again, it not being a complete mess in terms of coverage breakdowns, I feel like that unit could potentially get better. Yeah. I don't know if I can say that about the offensive line right now. At this point, we've seen they really made a concerted effort to try to roll with the same 5 guys through the Oregon State game. Those same 5 guys started last week against Arizona, and then they had to, again, rotate those guys. At this point, I just don't think there's a solution there.
Yeah, they very quickly pulled the plug on that starting group the other night, and again rotated. And it's just, I don't think it's going to get better either. I think that's a group that you're going to have to live with the way they play right now, and hopefully Steven Montez can live through it, because he's just been pounded. And Washington State's probably got a better. They've got a better defense in Arizona. They're going to come after Steven. They've got to figure out how to get rid of the ball quickly, or else he's going to get killed.
Not all hope is lost there. Looking at it long term, I don't think for this season they're going to miraculously become a solid unit. But, I mean, William Sherman's going to get better. Colby Purcell's going to get better. Frank Phillips is definitely going to get better. I think that could be an all-conference guy at some point. But he's a true freshman. They just shouldn't be asked to do what he's having to do right now.
And at some point, Jake Moretti is going to be healthy and be a really good player on this team. He's just not healthy right now.
Even Tim Lynott and Hagler will be back next year. So we'll see. I think that has a chance to be a good group in the future, but right now it just clearly is not.
Yeah, not in 2018. So Adam and I will be back later on this week. We'll preview more, get more into Washington State and preview that game.